Hello, Mr. Dre back with another video. In this one, what we are doing is dividing a decimal by a decimal, right? So you can see in both of these problems, the dividend is a decimal, that's the number we're dividing it up, but we're also dividing by a decimal. So both the divisor and the decimals are both of them are decimals, right? So how do we do this? Well, it's almost as easy as bringing it straight up. When we divided a decimal by a whole number, if this was just 32, we would just bring the decimal straight up, right? But since we're dividing by a decimal, here's what we need to do. It's not really that, there's one more step, right? What we do is we move this decimal over to make it a whole number. So watch this. We went over 1, 2, right? Since we went over 1, 2, we're gonna go over 1, 2, and then put the decimal straight up from this point, right? It doesn't go here, it goes 1, 2 over. Why? Because we went 1, 2 over here, right? Okay? Let's go over that again in this problem. We move the decimal over to make it a whole number. Basically, you're moving this decimal all the way to the right. This one only went over one time, so in our dividend, we're gonna move this one over one time and then straight up, right? So it's over and up when you're dividing a decimal by a decimal, right? So that's how to do it. Now let's go through our division, because there is one thing I would like to kind of go over for this one, right? So how many times can 32 go into 208, right? I know that 6 times 3 is 18, which is pretty close to 20. So I'm gonna try 6. Okay, I'm gonna try 6. 6 times 2 is 12. And a 1 goes up. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 1 is 19. Okay, when I subtract, I get 6 and 1. This becomes a 10. Okay, all right. Now, here's one thing I would like to talk to you about, is that when we're dividing up decimals and our answer is a decimal, right? We don't really want a remainder. It doesn't make sense to have a decimal and a remainder. So how do we keep working to not have a remainder anymore, right? Well, since this is a decimal, we can just add a 0 right here and bring a 0 down, and we're gonna keep working until we have no remainder. In some problems, you'll have to go on forever. It will never, be without a remainder, but in this one, I think we can do it, right? So how many times can 32 go into 160? Well, I know 3 times 5 is 15, which is pretty close to 16, so let's try 5, right? 5 times 2 is 10, 0 goes down, 1 goes up. You can see I'm using shorthand division. Instead of doing my work off to the side, I'm just kind of carrying right here. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1 is 16, and there you can see I got rid of my remainder. Answer is 6.5, okay? And that makes sense, because if I had 30 cents 6 times, I would have about $2, right? So that makes sense, okay? Now, in this problem over here, we've already moved the decimal in the right spot. We're trying to put 4.4 into 102 and 3/10. 4 and 4/10 is about 44, right? Or is about 4.4. So here's what we're gonna do. 44 can't go into 1, it can't go into 10, but it can go into 102, right? So 44 can go into 102 about 2 times, and that's 88. We subtract and we get 14, okay? 14's less than 44, so we're good. We're gonna bring this 3 down. How many times can 44 go into 143? Well, twice was 88. I think we can go one more time, so let's try 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 goes up. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So we got pretty close, right? Within 11. But you can see, since this is a decimal, we don't really want a remainder, right? How do we get rid of remainders? We just simply add a 0 and bring it down, and we're gonna keep dividing, okay? So so let's try 2. And sometimes you have to make your answer bar a little bit longer. 2 is 88. We subtract. And we get 22, right? We still have a remainder, so we want to bring another 0 all the way down and make this 220, right? 4 times 5 is 20, so that's pretty close to 22, so let's try 5, right? 5 times 4 is 20. 2 goes up. 5 times 4 is 20 plus 2. There we go. We got rid of our remainder. Okay? So the answer is 20. So I'm getting off to the side here. 23 and 25 hundredths. So let's just recap. How did we know where to put the decimal? Instead of putting it right up, since we're dividing by a decimal, what we need to do is move the decimal all the way over to the right. 1, 2. Count that number of spaces. 1, 2, and move it straight up from there.